We'll call our meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors to order, March 4th, 2014. We'll begin with a salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Brasky? Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Yeah, let the record show Mr. Boraski's not here at a family commitment this evening. We'll begin with item number one, our public comment. Mr. Gray is getting the public comment sign-in sheet. Thank you. First name on the list is Roland Kenny.
Good evening, Roland Kenny, Falls Township. I'll just say a few seconds on last meeting. When I was 16, I got my license down in Philly. And when I was 10, I knew. Red sign said, snow route, don't park your car in there. I don't know where these people come from, other worlds, where they think our police department should go and knock on their doors, phone them every time we want their cars off the street. And to spend 20 minutes on that, no. Okay, good matters. As some of you know, I volunteer at Penn Manor. And this Sunday coming up is Charter Day. And we're going up to, we were going to have the governor or lieutenant governor bring it down, but I just found out tonight we're going up to get it Thursday, the Charter of Pennsylvania that was given to William Penn by the King of England. And anybody has their family, kids, relations there, bring them out from 1 to 4. It's free. Charter Day, you don't have to pay. That's on the 9th. I got the two agreements that was made with Mrs. Reese from Falls Township. One was June 1, 03, and the other was June 1, 2010. There's not much difference, but one you did, Mr. Harvey, on 2010. Looks like you and Jeffrey Dent signed it. Changed somewhat like 24, which states, nobody's allowed there. And the one on 2003, they could stay. I really don't see the thing that she has to get out. They have to move. You don't have to wait for the township. I never went, brought it up about Bill, because I told Bill, I said, you're an at-will worker. I've been an at-will worker many a times, and that means you come in the morning, you don't like the way my hair is going, you can fire me. So I never brought it up, but Mrs. Reese, I feel, is a volunteer. She don't ask for nothing. I seen her when she had children down there and school teachers doing material and everything. She ran out. I seen her go in her own pocket and take out money where she didn't have to, but she did. She does an awful lot for this township, and I hate to see her go. Now, Bill, I don't know if you know, but Bill got a job, so he's working as of today. So Tonight, if you do say prayers, say one for the Reeses, them two and their son. If you got any more left in you, say it for this board. Not Jeff 3. He wasn't here. And, I see no reason why you can't change 24 in the 2010 back to 2001. Just to keep them here. That would keep them here. I hope you guys find it in your heart to keep them here. Good night and God bless you.
Thank you. Mr. Mariani?
Still early in the year, so what I'd like to see make 2014 a great year is to undertake an energetic program to expand our services to satisfy all of our residents. And what I have in mind is a very huge but doable program. Now, I'll give you a brief overview what I think we should at least begin in 2014. There's been a lot of requests for a community center, including myself, going back a couple of years. And I believe that we can create one that would include all of our residents, and that includes, of course, our seniors. And I think we can do that in a cost-effective way. I really do. Now, there are two properties that I think may soon be available in Falls Township geographical area, and both of them have plenty of parking, a lot of outdoor recreational areas, gym, kitchen, auditorium, meeting rooms, and I think there probably will be possible acquisition of one of these two properties. Now, my plan would be to eliminate the senior center because they're going to be included in the community center, and my plan would convert that building to a police requirement design. Then you'd move the police into that building. You get them out of this building. I would use option 1 for our municipal complex, and that would maintain most of the existing infrastructure that we have here. The police are moved to what used to be the senior center, and we would use that space to expand our current work areas and our storage facilities. Now, by moving the police out, it removes the need for a building addition. So if you go to that option 1 where I want to go, and you look at phase 5 and 6, you could probably reduce our cost by over $3 million, and the cost goes down to maybe $9 million, which is lower than the cost of 13, or the lower cost of 13.5, which is projected, or the high cost of $16 million. You'd maintain the second floor, and that would be expanded even more so than what it is for rental income. The other thing I would absolutely do, I'd establish an EIT, which 96% of all the municipalities employ. You pay one, Mr. Chairman. Mm-hmm. I know Mr. Galloway does. I pay one. And that revenue source would be somewhere around $6.6 million income for this township each and every year. So I'm saying we got to stop subsidizing all these other municipalities. Why are we doing that? At the cost of $6.6 million. So, quickly, my goal for 2014 would be to acquire an asset. That would be a community center. It's doable. We can do that. Our police are then relocated to a facility, to a police design facility and to public safety. And at that point, it frees the police to make the renovations and updates and so on and so forth that they need to make and can make without disruptions. The cost of our municipal complex would be considerably reduced by that. I'd expand the tax base. I'm telling you, our revenue is $6.6 million each and every year, and get rid of our dependence on host fees. I'm saying this is something that I would do now. I wouldn't wait until we have to. You're going to have to do it. Maybe not this board, but future boards. That has to be done. I'm saying do it now. Don't wait until we have to do it, because it's easier to give birth than to resurrect the dead. So let's do what we got to do. Let's do it now. That's what I see for our 2014. I think it's doable, and I think we ought to at least begin this project.
Are you saying move the senior center to this building?
No.
When it's renovated? Where's the senior center?
No.
So at the
Senior
senior churches, basically. You're talking about St. Francis and St. Joseph the Worker. You're assuming one of them is going to close and the property be available.
I think they'll both close myself. I mean, I don't have
know,
any information, but
right. Yeah, I don't either.
I see, I see you're going to have some 50, 55 and older.
That's St. Joseph the Worker.
Yeah,
right.
sure we are.
Right.
No, I'm not saying move the senior center here. I don't know where you're getting that from.
Leave this building where it is. Move the
I
police to the
understand that
senior
part.
center, and
That becomes a freestanding police building, which it should be. I mean, the police don't have their own
Yeah,
building, I believe.
all the money that you've talked about saving is going to that plus more to upgrade that building into a police department. I don't think you realize what needs to go into building a police department for the size police department we have. One of the things to think about too, just in I appreciate the thought and I appreciate the input. I'm just giving you some of the issues that I can think of. Is
And
that
the income that we would have now, over $6 million a year.
well? But
we would
we're
do
just
what
talking
we
about
have to
the
do.
building idea
the
now.
building right now.
If the police department moves to a separate facility,
Right.
in terms of maintenance on their vehicles, which is all done here, do you now duplicate and they have their own garage bays and their own mechanics because we don't have them here?
No,
or are they going to have to bring
that's not
police
what I'm
cars here every
suggesting.
time
Oh, no.
to get them repaired and everything else?
No. That's
Well,
not what I'm suggesting.
No, I'm just saying that's sort of
As you move the
logistically.
police
I don't
department
think-
over there's no reason why they can't continue to have their fleet maintenance continued to be serviced here. A lot of the police departments take them to garages.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they have to be freestanding in every aspect. So you move their administration over there, and you move their cells over there where they have to be. And I got news for you. It isn't as costly as you might think it is. And don't forget, don't ignore the $6.5 million each and every year that we give away.
Right.
You, me.
I agree. Yeah, and
Me?
that's, yeah,
Me?
Yeah. Oh, you do
You
too.
too.
It's something we've actually discussed after you brought it up.
We have
Having
talked-
somebody come in and look at how much money we actually would.
One of the things we're curious about is how many Falls residents. 'Cause we did this. I forget when we did it, Mr. Gray. We had somebody come in and take a look at this in 05 maybe, or
It was about 5-10 years ago.
yeah, 05 or 06. We had somebody come in just to give us an idea of how many Falls residents at that time currently paid an EIT somewhere else.
Let me
And
give you
the
an idea
percentage-
now.
Well, I'm just telling you, percentage wasn't super high, and so we thought, well, let's not do it. Now, because like you said, more people have passed it. Middletown, obviously, just recently, and so we're curious just to see how many Falls residents pay it now, because they would pay it here rather than where they are now. Like I wouldn't
We
be
are
paying
gonna
it
look
for
into it.
Township. Yeah,
I'll give you an idea. Of the 50 major employers here, not one of them is based in Falls Township, with maybe the exception that, I guess, if you work at a Pennsbury
I was going to say,
school.
Pennsbury High School has to
Okay,
be. Yeah.
that's about it.
Pennsbury School District has to
Which
be one.
means anybody that doesn't live here and has a job is paying an EIT somebody else. I'd rather see my township get it. And I'm telling you, it's over $6 million right here. And that's using a median, not an average, a median income of $50,000. So, but I'm glad at least you looked into one of my suggestions.
Yeah.
Look into the other ones, you'll like.
It's not a terrible idea, but I don't think the senior center is large enough. Even the property itself,
It would need drastic improvement to
Yeah.
house the police
on
department.
top of the
It really
$3 million we already spent there this year.
Hell of a lot more room than they have here.
I don't think
Not right
so.
now. No, I don't think so.
Sure, I do.
I don't.
The only advantage you have of having a police, I took the tour. The only advantage you have a police department here, if a prisoner escaped from inside of this police
They
department,
never find their way out.
you'll never make it out. You'll never get out. You'll never get out. Listen,
the truth.
Thank you. It's an idea.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
It's funny he says that because when people talk about the police department, I say if you ever took a tour in there, you're like a hamster lost in a habit trail because you'll never find your way out unless you leave a trail.
Right. John Bossman.
Good evening, John Boston, Falls Township. I just want to, actually two things. I want to let some residents know, Mr. Harvey, on your and Mr. Sullivan's effort. I know it's a little late, but last year with the residents adjoining the Lower Makefield Township property, I mean, I think your comments to them, the developer, were right on the mark. And I know my former neighbors really appreciate that.
Thank you.
But now I have something else to present to you. My property borders the Peruzzi Buick GMC dealership. And I'm getting a tremendous, on about the 13th of January, to go out to go get wood for my wood burner, and I'm blinded by light. A new light that was put in. Literally on my house, lighting up my backyard to look like their parking lot. Actually, there's another light, there's a pole in the back of the building that looks like it has additional lighting. I talked to my neighbor, and I go, is that new? Yes, I think that's a whole new pole and two new lights. I tried calling the dealership immediately the next day, and no one responded to me. Week goes by, call again. Finally went over there, and the store manager, the business manager was not available. They gave me a sales manager. And he proceeded to say, well, it's from the tree work that was done on the power line. You're just getting that, the trees were blocking it. And I said, on that property right there, that property had vegetation removed? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, that's my property. I had no trees trimmed. And the trees were trimmed back in October by Ash Blund. I would have been there in October. Then he finally said, well, we had electrician fix ballast and put lights up. So I questioned the height of two light poles if they were within the township code.
Okay.
I have light that is not only on the house, but it penetrates 12 and a half feet into the opposite wall from the window. I talked to Tom Bennett. I actually talked to police department also, because if you're coming from the Parkway heading towards Olds Boulevard, there's two lights that shine, and it's a traffic problem. It could be a dangerous situation. If a kid or a dog was crossing the street, you may not be able to see them. There's glare that goes onto the opposite houses on the street. So I invite anybody to look at it. The attitude from Peruzzi was that we're looking into it, but no one from Peruzzi has come onto my property and seen. I invited them to. I met a fellow, the manager, finally weeks later, on the border of the property line, on the fence line, and I didn't like his comment that, why would I be charging you for the light?
What was his name? Do you know?
Yeah, Jason.
Jason Young. I know who he is.
All right. I don't really want to say in public what Tom's comment was about Peruzzi, but
Oh, great.
the dealership kind of was like, I'm not worried about the township.
Well, I find that hard to believe. I'm going to call personally Fred Peruzzi tomorrow and discuss
I
it with him.
appreciate that.
He's usually very receptive. We had a problem with lights a couple years ago.
Right.
And I'm not making excuses for Fred Peruzzi or anybody else. But I think part of the problem is I think they get lost in the cycle that they go through with daylight savings time and not resetting.
Well, there's a
on
light
and
that just
off.
went on. It goes on
Yeah.
at about 6:15 in the evening and doesn't shut off.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. But I'll discuss it with him
well, that's
tomorrow.
a new light, and I tell you what, you get up in the middle of the night, and that blue white light, you're awake the rest of the night. And my sleep cycle's been messed up from plowing, and that's not helping me.
And Tom has your contact info, Tom Bennett?
Tom called me and he says, I talked to the dealership,
Okay.
but they're still angled. If you look at the lights, they're angled, and one is directly at my house. And I know a couple other neighbors had made complaints to Peruzzi and kind of got nowhere.
I think you're talking to the wrong person at Peruzzi with Jason, but I'll talk to Fred Peruzzi personally tomorrow. I'll call him because he's usually pretty receptive of what we ask them to do.
Yeah, because when I read our township the code, it's almost every single one of those the lighting things are in violation. You know, it looks pretty clear cut. There's no shielding on the lights. There's no louvers, and the way they're angled.
Let me ask Mr. Sullivan if you have any. I know you're looking at the saldo a little bit there, just to.
Yes, I'm looking at the code. Maximum pole height is 25 feet or the height of the nearest building on the property. They have to be shielded against glare, off-site glare, and obviously
They're
these
not.
aren't. Yeah.
They're not. I mean,
So-
to put light on a roof across the street.
Yeah.
Now he called me and he said, "Well, I changed two lights and lowered them." And I called him back and said, didn't do a damn thing. It's still in my
We
house.
we can certainly take a look, over the next day or two, depending on when we can get out there and maybe even at night at some point, just to get an idea of lighting. We'll work with Mr. Bennett,
Yeah, I
Mr.
like
Sullivan
my
will work
quiet,
with Mr.
dark
Bennett.
backyard, It's a nice place to sit out in the summertime.
Right,
So, appreciate it.
We'll go right to the
problem.
horse's mouth rather
Yeah.
than go through the other end.
That's great.
right.
Appreciate it.
Gloria Latuma?
All right, they did. No, I didn't mean it that way.
Good evening, Gloria
evening.
Latuma, Falls Township. And I'm back again, just again to voice my concern about the Seaview Lubricycle. And the last time I was here, you mentioned a planning commission. I think that they were going to be coming
In March.
front-
Yes.
Okay. And that's March 25th?
I believe
Yes,
so. Is that
that's
right?
correct.
March 25th. Yes.
Okay, so having not been to a planning commission meeting, I just want to get an idea of what to expect. Will New Seaview be there as well, a representative for, okay.
Yes, it's in this room. It's very similar to this. The planning commission sits up here. It's a public meeting. People are allowed to speak.
Public meeting,
Yes.
okay, so I can ask whatever questions.
And it's going to look a lot like whenever you see them coming here. They'll, they'll have a solicitor or an engineer. He'll come and make a presentation. He'll answer questions from the board about what he's doing, why he's doing it. And yeah, it's very, very similar to this.
Okay, and then as far as a time frame goes, once they've, or I guess they need approval from the planning commission. So then what kind of time frame would we be looking at for this new Seaview to get up and running?
I don't remember their construction time. They'd have to come back before us in early April. Probably they'd probably make their first.
Yeah, the
meeting in
earliest it could
April.
be would be probably the second meeting in April.
Second meeting in April, they'd have to come back to us. That would give them final approval if we gave it to them. At that point, Mr. Sullivan.
You have to resolve any outstanding issues they might have, engineering or otherwise.
Okay.
Prepare
And-
recording plans, get those recorded, and then
They could come to us before they have DEP approval, so they might still have to wait for DEP approval.
yeah, there may be other agency approvals, like Mr. Harvey just said, DEP, other things.
And now, I noticed that we have an environmental advisory committee.
Yes.
Do they also meet with them?
They have. I know the EAC has reviewed the plans. They work with the fire marshal. They reviewed plans. They'll probably get them again after it goes through planning commission, just to kind of go back through it. And that commission, the EAC, I'm liaison to that commission, board liaison, and there are a couple of guys on there who are professionals in
Okay,
terms
good.
of
That was
environmental
my next
engineering.
question,
Yeah.
actually, was.
There are a few of them. One I think is retired. He worked for the state of New Jersey, DEP. I think the other one works for a private company as an environmental engineer. So
Okay, that sounds good. And then just as a follow-up, the last time I was here, I mentioned the Pure Earth Company, and I did just a little tiny bit more research on that, and apparently there was a company that came in after the Pure Earth, and they also wanted to go ahead and do a similar type of recycling business. And Vineland actually was able to block that company. Let's see if I have this. They were able to block the license from the State Department of Environmental Protection. So I think that if we look into this and we find that this is not something that's right for our township, especially as I said, because of the limited amount of benefit that we're getting out of it, maybe we can see what they did and possibly block it. Just a thought, okay? And then lastly, of course, I've been asking for the name of the company. We have that ready?
And Mrs. Gallagher, you did contact the solicitor, I think, or the attorney for the company?
I did, and he's attempting to locate the information for me. I'm anticipating hearing back from him in the next couple of days.
You have,
But I haven't heard back yet.
Because, again, this is from the minutes of that initial presentation. It says Mr. Packer, who was a gentleman that was representing not Pure Earth, New Seaview.
Seaview, right.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to confuse the two.
okay.
That Mr. Packer actually has built, owned, and operated 2 refineries in New Jersey. So I don't know why it's so difficult to get that information, but when you do, could you just please
Sure.
get it to me?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Carol Freikhofer, is that right? Okay.
I'm Carol Freehafer from Falls Township. I wanted to know if there was an ordinance for the basketball courts being on the sidewalks.
No, we do not have an ordinance. They have to be on sidewalks. They can't be in the street. But we do not have an ordinance
No,
regarding
is there
that.
ever, why? They're kind of a nuisance. I mean, I don't see as a pedestrian why I have to walk in the street to go around a basketball.
Well, okay. I misunderstood you then. Yes, sidewalks cannot be blocked by anything at all. So, I mean, people who park a car and sticking out blocking the sidewalk, people that put their trash cans and block the sidewalk, you can't block a sidewalk with anything. So I was thinking, more about a lot of people, they put them so they're on the curb, but they're on the grass, not blocking the
Well,
sidewalk.
Fowler's Hills doesn't have the grass.
Okay. Well, that's
So I was
obviously an
wondering if
issue.
they could do something about that, maybe?
So, yeah, that's, it's code or is it police? I'm trying to think.
It'd probably be a code violation.
Yeah, it's a
I
code
don't think it'd be a police matter.
I mean, I know
So-
last year you guys got the, all the unregistered cars off the street, which was really nice, because my
Right.
neighbor had a junky, old, rusty truck in the street. It looked terrible.
Right.
And so I was thinking maybe you could do something with the,
If you know roughly where it is, I mean, the address
well,
of
it's
it.
a neighbor that I'm very good friends with, but I'm kind of upset because it's right behind my driveway
Okay.
on their sidewalk, and it's the noise too.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
they're out there often, and it's bothersome.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it is. There isn't anything regarding noise with those, but the one thing they cannot do is block a sidewalk with anything. So that's really something that code enforcement could go out and they ask them to move it, and if they didn't move it, then they could get a violation.
So they should just go around Fowler's Hills and
Well, certainly
maybe
have something we can
enforce it.
probably something not thinking about now with the weather being what it is. But you're right. I mean, it's certainly something we can have our guys look into. Mr. Gray, writing that down. I think I see.
And I just
Okay.
heard a little
Thank
bit
you.
about the company that's a proposal to come in and recycle the oil and just reconsider that.
Seaview. Right. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are all the names on the resident sign-in sheet. We have one name on the non-resident sign-in sheet, David Sager from Doylestown.
Good evening. My name's Dave Sager. I am president of Pennsylvanians for Self-Protection. Live in Buckingham Township. On November 6th of last year, the Falls Township Board of Supervisors considered authorizing advertisement for adopting Chapter 199 on township-owned property. This ordinance would have banned the possession of firearms on township-owned property. On November 11th,
Correct.
No, that's incorrect.
took
But-
it right out of the minutes.
It's a mistake.
Yeah.
Not only that, that whole ordinance has been tabled and killed anyway, but
Right.
go ahead.
Well, that was the reason why we're here, because we reached out to the township a couple times since the Erie case, have not heard anything, so we thought it would be important that we come just to find out what
If
happened.
the ordinance is dead, it's been tabled indefinitely. We couldn't do anything with that ordinance unless we re-advertised, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So even if we wanted to adopt it, we'd have to re-advertise it again anyway and then go through that process all over again, and all that would be public.
Which we have no intention of doing at this time.
The majority of the board is not in favor of moving forward with that. In light of the Erie case, as you mentioned.
Okay. And tabled indefinitely is not the same thing as rescinding or...
Well, you don't really,
Nothing to
yeah, you
rescind
don't
it.
really rescind
Yeah.
it because you haven't taken any legal action, or we were looking to advertise it, and it's hasn't been advertised, and it's not going to be. It would have to be. We'd have to take another action in order to start. We'd have to start all over again, basically.
Okay.
Is my
I
point.
appreciate that. Can I make one other
Sure.
comment then? Just for the record, we oppose this ordinance not only because we believe that it violated Pennsylvania's firearms preemption laws, but also because, and most importantly, that laws that ban firearms in certain locations only advertise to the criminally insane that they have free rein to create terror and commit murder, while at the same time rendering law-abiding citizens defenseless.
Well, I doubt how many criminally insane people are keeping track of our minutes to keep note of that, but I appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with item number 2, certificate of appropriateness for 9 Old Locust. This is replacing cedar shingle roof on the Montessori College. Mr. Gray?
Yes, this is a certificate of appropriateness, 9 Old Locust Street in Fallsington, tax map parcel 13-020-269. again, to replace cedar shingle roof on the Montessori cottage. This was approved by the HARB Board on February 27th. The board is asked to consider the certificate of appropriateness. And I believe the contractor is here as well for any questions the board may have.
Okay. Any questions or comments needed?
No.
Yeah, I just had one. Is it being replaced with a cedar shake or asphalt? Asphalt. That's what I thought.
You want him at the podium?
Yeah, if you could just use the mic. Sorry, if you could just use the microphone. Apologize.
Charlie Kynes, Trenton Roofing.
Okay, and it's being replaced with asphalt, you said?
Asphalt.
Okay.
Timberland, high definition.
That's all I had.
Other questions? Okay. All right. Any public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion then to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 9 Old Locust?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 3, consider proposal from Remington Vernick Engineers for a grant for the New Falls Road sidewalks. Mr. Gray?
Township received a letter from Tom Beach at Remington Vernick Beach dated February 14th regarding a proposal to provide grant writing services for the New Falls Road sidewalk. This is through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission for the Pennsylvania Transportation Alternatives Program. This is an amount not to exceed $1,958. The board is asked to consider this grant proposal. Here tonight to discuss the project further is Mr. Tom Beach.
Mr. Beach?
As Pete indicated, this is a new grant program that came out. And when I was reading through the requirements for the grant, the project that really just jumped right out at me and said that why not look to see if we can go and get some money for it would be the New Falls sidewalk. Since I sent the letter to Pete, we have met with Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission to get a little bit more background as to the scope of the projects, whether our project would be deemed a good project in their mind, and just to see what other potential pitfalls that might be from the grant. The good news is that it's a very, very good project from the standpoint of pedestrian safety and linking a school. This actually replaces the Safe Routes to School program. So it's a good project that would link, obviously, the high school fields to the developments in that area. From that standpoint, it's a really good project. The downside is that I know you're really anxious to get this thing out to bid, hopefully early spring, and get it done in the summer. The grant program as it works, they'll make a decision in September. And if you do get the grant, and the way the grant funding works is you're responsible. It's an 80-20 split, but the way it really works is you have to do all the upfront engineering and everything, which we've already been handling for you for this particular project. And then they come in and they would fund the construction and the inspection of that work. Again, that's the good news. The downside would be that September's the earliest you would know, and you have to go through the PennDOT process, which is basically, right now, our project's going to go and get for a highway occupancy permit. It's probably like a 2-month max process to get your permits. And we've already touched base with them on a number of occasions, so they know it's coming. The normal PennDOT process, you have to go through historic significance, environmental clearances. You have to do a type section and elevation of the project. And each time you submit each one of those steps, it's like a 2-month, 3-month review with comments, you back and forth, then you go to the next step. So realistically, that would push your project out probably another year before you'd actually get it built. However, that's not the only potential project that we could go for. If you remember, you originally looked at New Falls Road, you were looking at sidewalk on both sides of the street. And we narrowed it down for funding purposes, we go for one side. So one option would be we could actually just go and apply for the eastern side of New Falls Road, and do that project. The funding, they're looking for the window. It has to be at least $250,000 to $1 million would be the top end. The top end, if it's like 1.1, they would probably push it through. But the low end is really 250,000. Estimates that you had prior for the eastern side of New Falls Road was around 330,000, I believe. 250 to 330, depending on how wide the path was that you put down there. So that would be one particular project. The other would be to look at, maybe we continue further down New Falls Road if you wanted to pursue this grant. So it is a grant opportunity. Like I said, depending on which project you go with, it could be a very good one to go chase and see if you're able to connect on it. So.
Okay. And the scope of the work for you guys to sort of go ahead and start looking at this in more detail and putting together the actual application, everything else would be $1,958.
Correct.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
Not at this time.
Mr. Dents?
The amount is 80/20, 20 on our part. They paid the 80%, plus we have to pay the engineering fees.
No, it's a soft 80/20. They say that's the match, but it's really not the match. You do the design engineering fees.
They pay the construction.
They pay the construction costs and costs to inspect. So, whatever that, the design.
The assumption is it's going to be 80/20, basically.
About that. It's going to be in that neighborhood, somewhere in that neighborhood. But they want you to do the upfront engineering.
Reimburse us for money we already spent if we did it ourselves, right?
No, I mean, some grants, they do that. And we were hoping that this was one of them. Or, hey, look, this is a shovel-ready project. We're ready to go. We just finalized our permits. But I think they're using federal money, so it's going to be a slower process as they move forward. So.
And that's all I have right now.
Yeah, I'd hate to see it delay the western side for that long. So,
right.
Yeah.
And that's pushing it back 2 years.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of holding off on that side, but the east side's interesting. It's kind of an interesting idea, I guess.
And the engineering's already been done for our east side project, or no?
Well,
Just as a concept.
quite a bit of it was. I don't know how much. The concept plan we had from several years ago. I don't know how much real engineering is in there. I mean, surveying probably, but otherwise.
Yeah, there wasn't enough survey information to be able to do that side of the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be in favor of that before I would be in favor of extending it down towards Tyburn Road.
Yeah. Well, the deadline is April 4th for the application, and it also one of the eligible type projects is stormwater management. So you could have your township engineer. There might be a project that you're looking at somewhere in the township on that end where you might want to apply for that also. So.
Were we looking to at extending sort of a walkway on Mill Creek Road, Mill Creek Parkway?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was wondering.
Yeah, we were looking at that last year during budget season, yes.
Yeah, there's an existing sidewalk, I think that's all.
And it stops at a certain location.
Right.
Yeah, right in Willowwood there.
We have time. It's April 4th.
Okay. Yeah, I don't necessarily know. Well, the other
time. But if
we
you
have
want us to
two more
look at
meetings
other
before
projects,
that. We don't have to
could do
necessarily
that.
meet tonight. We have 2 more meetings before that. I guess another concern I have is having worked with the PennDOT before, a PennDOT grant before with this, that we're doing a Trenton Road traffic study right now that started. I think I'm the only member of the board who was on the board when it started. And because it was a PennDOT thing, the hoops you jump through. I mean,
There's a lot.
You could be in the Olympics. But one of the concerns too, I had just working with that. I don't know if this is the same. We had to actually request, go out for RFPs to look for engineering firms to actually design it, and with this other Trenton Road project, and then go through the process of reviewing all those and approving all, and then it had to be narrowed down. There was a scoring thing you had to do. I mean, it was months and months. Does that happen with this one too, or can we just?
They did not indicate that would be an issue.
All right.
I think if you were going to use a firm that's not, usually if it's the township engineer or your township's traffic engineer,
right,
you're allowed to do the grants, the design work on the grants. If you try to bring in somebody else, then you have to go through the hoops.
Okay.
So what do you need to submit any of the requests by April 3rd?
Well,
Do you need,
we probably need a good week to put the application together. So if
Yeah, but
you
you
want to
don't-
look at or think of some other potential projects, and then if you find one and the cost is okay with you, then give me a call and we can just go ahead and we'll put it in for you. You know, if you decide you don't want to move forward with it, then just, you know.
Don't call.
do we need it? We don't need any, besides the grant writing, we don't need any engineering services from you guys.
Well, I mean, we got to do like a preliminary sketch plan. We have to do cost estimates and that kind of stuff as part of the grant application.
It's part of this cost?
Yeah, that was
1900, yeah, the 1900.
I mean, it's all conceptual.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll put something together for that.
Could we give them an application for multiple locations? Like a piece of sidewalk here, some sidewalk over there? Or no?
I guess if the total, it just has to be 250,000.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make it like short pieces of
No.
sidewalk, but, you know.
But
Again, the whole project's got to hit about $250,000 minimum. So, you know, just to make it worth your while, to go through all the grant processes and stuff. So, you know, if you have some stretches in other areas, and again, anytime you can link neighborhoods to schools, you're going to score higher on the application fees.
There are some spots, and I can think of specifically, where there are sections of sidewalk just missing that aren't very big sections of sidewalk, maybe 100 feet. I'm just, you know, I can think of on Makefield Road is one spot. I know where I live, you're considered a walker to Eleanor Roosevelt, and you have to walk up to Makefield Road to the crossing guard. When you walk up, heading toward Makefield Road, the sidewalk stops, and you have to walk through dirt, and then it starts again, and then it stops again. But they're not big pieces of sidewalk that are missing. I don't know. It's patchwork.
Yeah, I mean, that might be something you want to just handle in our road program if they're that short, because, you know, unless you got 100 of them, and I'll run it by them. We can talk to DVRPC.
Or we could tag that on to something large we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the decision we have to make now is we have obviously another meeting in March. Do we want to authorize this now, or just to have some discussion and come back to second meeting in March with something more concrete to authorize?
Well, I'm okay authorizing, go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was going to say, if we authorize it now, and then we decide that we don't want to do it, Mr. Beach will have to come back, or...
Yeah, and I mean, if you authorize me tonight, then I can coordinate with Pete Gray, and you guys give him potential projects. We'll look at them. We'll see if they're good candidates. And again, if you don't find anything, then we just scrap the idea of going after the grant and move forward. So.
Sounds good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the rate we're growing, I hate to see another snowstorm and cancel our next meeting or something.
I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good point.
Something else.
March 18th? I hope not.
Yeah, well, I never know. We've had big ones around that time before.
Yeah.
All right, so what's
So I'd be okay approving it tonight.
So would I, yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve the $1,900, 1980, is that what it is?
1958.
Yeah, that amount, 1958.
I'll second.
Okay, public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's all right. It's okay. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Ms. Mariani?
Okay, the chairman said that during the last meeting, I must have a file on township projects. And he's right, because I need a file to keep up with the number of projects in his file that keep coming up. And what I perceive sometimes is the lack of financing to maintain them after we get into the future. Another thing is all of these projects that keep coming up here, they all have 9 lives, like this unnecessary project that we're talking about tonight goes back to May 2011, and tonight's only number 4 on this cat's 9 lives. So this is going to keep coming back. This project, as I see it, is not a safety issue today any more than it was in May 2011. New Falls Road was constructed as a motorized road. The difference between the houses, the schools, the stores, the public transportation are great enough to discourage walking and require travel by motor vehicle. Has anyone that I know of here, since we've been discussing this the last few years, clocked pedestrian use of this road? Do we have a documented estimate of need or probable use? I don't know of any. What circumstances are there that would indicate a need for sidewalks on New Falls Road? None of the businesses there that I see and that I've clocked is patronized by pedestrians. That's why they all have parking lots. Now, I've heard some members of this board, and all I hear from this board, really, about this particular project, I see kids walking. Well, I clocked New Falls Road for months. I did that before, and I did it again, 6 times a day, between 7 and 8 a.m., between 12:30 and 1:30 p.m., between 2 and 4 p.m. The largest numbers of pedestrians I've ever seen were 2. Once in my entire life, I seen 3 people walking along New Falls Road. I did this 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, 0. Not one person walking on New Falls Road. Now, maybe I'm missing something.
Maybe it was the winter.
It was a blizzard.
Maybe it was the blizzard,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
a blizzard. It was 20 degrees outside.
You're talking about 2 weeks ago, and I'm talking about when I did it for months, Mr.
I couldn't
Rod.
agree with you more. I
Okay?
couldn't
All right.
disagree with
Now,
you more on this one.
Look, maybe I'm missing something. You tell me I am. Is there a particular time that these visions of kids walking manifest themselves to board members?
Yes, there must be. I work out at New Falls Fitness several times a week, believe it or not. And I've lost 19 pounds since Christmas, by the way. I've never been on New Falls Road and not seen a pedestrian or a bicycle or a senior citizen on a scooter that I see going up and down New Falls Road every day. Not just children. I've never been on New Falls Road when there wasn't someone, either a pedestrian or what have you, on New Falls Road.
Well, we got to get together.
And the other point is, if there is only...
We ought to get together to go look for some of these pedestrians. Now, if you and I go to a particular establishment there, and after we're there for a couple hours, you and I may see some pink elephants going down New Falls Road.
being silly,
But I'm
Mr.
going to tell you
Mariani.
something. In all my years, and I got a lot of them, I have never seen people that aren't there, and I don't hear voices. But I'll tell you what I believe, the whole objective of this connecting plan. We started out with $995,000 roads on both sides.
Actually, we never started with that. We killed
We'll
that.
go back to the archives. It was $995,000.
And we immediately said we weren't going to do that.
Well, I don't blame you. $995,000.
If we make it safer and we save one life, one person doesn't get hit by a car, then it's worth any amount of dollar you put on it.
No, not really.
It is.
No, it's not.
If you save us a life, you can't put a dollar amount on
Let me
it.
tell you what I believe the object of this connecting plan. We forgot about putting sidewalks on both sides. Well, we'll put a connecting
I wanna hear
plan.
this. Go ahead.
I can tell you, it isn't going to be long after you did the connecting plan that somebody's going to have a vision and say, I seen kids running across the street. We're going to have sidewalks on the other side. And we're back to where we are. The Federal Highway Administration guidance on bike and pedestrian travel, the exemption states, where the cost of accommodation is excessively disproportionate to the need or probable use, and the documented absence of current and future need is not produced, which is what's happening here, there's no need to build it. That's where we are, and there's no need to proceed with this unnecessary expenditure, which will result in time coming up. I tell you, it's going to be over $1 million. About 10 years ago, PennDOT created a half-mile pass on the road between Holly Drive and the 7400 block of New Falls Road in Bristol Township. Senator Tommy Tomlinson's aide spoke with PennDOT about the possibility of creating a paved road top path along New Falls Road, and PennDOT indicated interest in doing that. We spoke about that the last time. I think the third life of this cat came up, and it's still got 9 to go. Has anyone ever contacted Senators Tomlinson, McElhenney, Representative Galloway, Tina Davis about this possibility? Have we considered just running the blacktop strip there?
That's what we're doing. For the most part.
Yeah.
We're not putting sidewalks up and down the street.
Well,
We're trying to make it safer for the pedestrians that do walk on New Falls Road. Not only children, but everyone that walks up and down New Falls Road. We're not putting sidewalks up and down New Falls Road. We're
Yeah.
making a pedestrian path.
Yeah.
In some areas where there is no sidewalk now, there will be a blacktop path marked to try and make it safer for people to walk.
When they were putting up
It's
the
not,
learning
it's not only
center,
going to make it safer for the pedestrians, it's going to make it better for the businesses that people have access to it. I'm sure there are a lot of people that won't walk on New Falls Road because they're the ones that have common sense. You can't teach common sense.
Who walks to Thornridge? Who?
I don't know. Maybe they will.
Nobody. I can tell
You do see people walking there. Go look at the dirt path now that's worn down from pedestrians walking back and forth.
And riding their bikes.
Right.
That's right, and ride their bikes. Okay.
All right, thank you.
I'm telling you, let it go.
Any other public comment? See no hands. Motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we had a motion to second to approve $1,958 for Remington Vernick to begin some work with the DVRPC grant application for transportation alternatives. We're spending money. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Gray, I think you had something else for Remington Vernick?
Yes, Township also received a proposal to provide additional engineering services for New Falls Road sidewalk. This is some additional services, as mentioned. This is an amount for $4,404. This would include additional work, including roadway typographic survey, sidewalk design, and reimbursable expenses. The board is asked to consider this proposal as well.
Okay, so $4,404. Comments or questions for Mr. Beach?
The New Falls Road pedestrian path, it should be referred to as. Yes, that's all.
Yeah, this was for that mid-block crossing.
Okay.
Right.
We had not included any survey on the other side of the street, and unfortunately, PennDOT and its infinite wisdom, when you do a handicap ramp now, you need like 3,000 shots all around it, and we got 2 ramps that we need to design and get the field work.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Motion to approve, $4,404.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Beach.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is consider authorizing advertisement for an ordinance amending Chapter 203 to adopt Articles 8, Neighborhood Traffic Advisory Committee, and Article 9, Traffic Calming Measures. Mr. Dents has worked a lot on this, as has Ms. Gallagher, so I'll turn it over to him and to her.
This is, as everyone knows, we've discussed many times, and this has been a long time coming. When all of us ran for office, one of the biggest complaints is the traffic and speeding in Falls Township. We have a process with the police that we go through. We're creating a traffic advisory committee made up of residents that is going to work with the police, with our traffic engineers firm, Mr. Beach, that can address these issues. They'll deal with them on a case-by-case basis. When someone has a concern in their neighborhood, they'll develop a process, how they will handle them, and come up with ideas for traffic calming. And hopefully this is finally getting off the ground. We're going to advertise tonight. I actually have a few people that are interested in volunteering, and I'm happy that we can finally get this going. So hopefully next meeting we can approve this and start working on traffic calming in Falls Township.
Okay.
That pretty much sums it up, I think.
Ms. Gallagher, we're adopting 2 different, or advertising to adopt 2 different articles. What exactly is the difference between them?
Sure. The first article creates the Neighborhood Traffic Committee, which will appoint 5 members in the initial term. Their initial term of service will begin in May of 2014. And then they will stagger like all the other boards in the township, and they'll be for continuing 5-year terms. As Mr. Dunn said, the committee will meet once a month and will consult with the township manager, the police department, public works, emergency services, whoever is necessary. They can consider recommendations from residents, they can consider recommendations from the administration, from the board, to determine whether or not any traffic calming measures would be appropriate. They would then issue recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for consideration. The second article deals with traffic calming measures, and what that does is it provides a mechanism for individuals to bring certain areas of the township to the attention of the traffic committee as well as the Board of Supervisors for consideration. What will happen is there'll be an application that they can fill out, and it'll initially go through the township manager's office to determine whether or not the township has control of a road. We can't install any traffic calming measures on PennDOT roads. And then after that, it'll go to the traffic calming committee and then in front of the board ultimately for consideration whether or not installation of those measures would be appropriate.
The committee will make recommendations to us.
Yes, the committee is advisory only. The Board of Supervisors has the ultimate say on whether or not to implement any traffic calming measures regardless of the recommendation.
And traffic calming measures does not mean speed bumps. So everybody, as soon as they hear traffic calming measures, they think that we're putting speed bumps in. That's not the case. We're going to see what we can do, and there are a lot of different options.
Right.
As Mr. Beach, our traffic engineer, laid out for us. We had a presentation here that you can find, I guess it was in 2011, which is on the township website, a presentation by Traffic Planning and Design, our old traffic engineers, that outline what works, what doesn't work, all the different options that are out there, and there's a lot of them.
There's a variety, and there's PennDOT regulations and
guidelines that we have to go by, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited that this is finally getting off the ground.
Has the frequency of the meetings been decided?
The ordinance is phrased as monthly, but obviously they can be canceled if there's no agenda items. Presumably, in the beginning at least, there'll be numerous items that will need to be considered, so that more frequent meetings would be necessary. The ordinance also requires the traffic committee to report to the Board of Supervisors on at least an annual basis.
Good.
So if anyone's interested in volunteering for this committee,
Excuse
happy
me.
to hear from you. What's your email that they send letters of interest to?
admin@fallstwp.com.
.org.
.org. Yes.
Yeah, because it won't come if you die.
That's right.
Pretty much sums it up.
Any other comments or questions?
I have none.
Mr. Galloway, no? None. Okay. I appreciate the work Ms. Gallagher put in, and obviously Mr. Dents as well. This has been one of his issues that he's worked a lot on, so I appreciate your help, all your work on this. And as he said, we're looking for people who would be on this. Your term would start in May, and obviously it's another way to volunteer and sort of help out the township. And a lot of times people think about the boards and commissions we have and wonder if you need some kind of expertise or anything. And obviously, if you have some experience, that's is wonderful, but that's not a requirement. Just looking for people that are concerned and want to do something that helps the township overall. Okay. Is there a motion then to authorize advertisement for the ordinance amending Chapter 203?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, again, we're just advertising at this point. We'll come back possibly at our next meeting to formally adopt it. Maybe April, I'm not sure what to see how it works.
I'll have to double check. I think we have it set for the first meeting in April right now.
Okay. All right, so we'll come back to the first meeting in April, formally adopt it, and we'll have more discussion and allow people to comment then too. So motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item 5 is discussion regarding LED lights for Falls Township. This is an issue Mr. Rocco has worked on, and I'll turn over to him, and Mr. Gray has also prepared some information for this as well. And this is discussion at this point about some options we might have.
Right.
Thank
you. This kind of started with Bristol Township. They recently replaced all of their streetlights with LEDs, and I reached out to some of them board members and started doing a little research on some of the possibilities for Falls Township should we want to go that way. Basically, we have about 2,500 lights that are currently not LEDs. Over the last few years, I think we've replaced some. We've done some hard calculations, or some, I guess soft would probably be the better word. And it looks like it could be a pretty decent payback in about, was it 4 years, Mr. Gray?
4 years.
4 years on just some estimated prices. So after that 4 years, the money that we save goes into our pocket, and that would be estimated at about $150,000 a year, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So, it's I would like to see us try to figure out how to do this as soon as possible, so the payback is as fast as possible. I don't know, Mr. Clark, if you have some recommendations?
We do. We looked into this with the information that Mr. Rocco had and also the information that Mr. Gray received. This was originally started from receiving a proposal from a company to do an outdoor lighting survey to determine replacing our existing streetlights with LEDs. We looked at that information, and we also looked at the information of some other municipalities that have done this. And we believe that unless there was an exception, that the replacement of these streetlights would have to go out to competitive bidding. The one area where there may be an exception is if we are attempting to do this under the Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract Act, and then using an authorized energy savings company or an ESCO. Then if you find companies that are authorized to do that under the Act and qualify under the Act, and if the program qualifies under the Act, then you don't have to do it by competitive bidding. You can do it by RFP and getting proposals from these companies. If you're looking for a specific type of light, or if you're looking for a specific type of product. We don't believe there's a need to do this outdoor lighting survey at this point in time, because I think the township administration will need some direction from the board as to which way you want to go. I know that we've replaced several hundred lights in the township, and those have been purchased, and if you wanted to go that way, that would just be a straight competitive bid. If you wanted to look into doing this under the Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract Act, then it would need to be put together. My office, probably most likely working with Mr. Sullivan's office to put this together. So we need a little direction on which way you want this to go.
Okay.
Well,
Looks like 329 lights have been replaced so far.
Yeah, I remember starting in 2008, we started really looking, in 2005 or 6, I think it was, we started really looking at energy savings here in the township, doing a variety of things. And one of the things we did really look at was the existing streetlights we had, and doing a pilot program. I know we did one, tried to pick 4 streets in different areas of the township, Farrell's Hills, Levittown, Fallsington. I think we did one on, was it Alden? No, I forget what it was. One on the other side of Route 1, too, just to let people get a chance to see what they were like, and so we could see what they were like. LED lights are more expensive to purchase, however, they use a lot less electricity, and they tend to have a much longer lifespan than a typical light bulb, whether it's a sodium bulb or one of the other types of bulbs that we use currently. And so obviously it's like the CFL bulbs, the little curly Q sort of light bulbs when they first came out. People didn't necessarily want to spend, $4 or $5 for a light bulb, but then when you figured in the amount of electricity you're saving, because they only use a fraction of the electricity and they last a lot longer than a regular incandescent bulb, it ended up working out. And so that's one of the things we've been looking at since then. Since that pilot program, what we've made a habit of doing is that as a light burns out, because all the street lights, the 2,500 street lights we have, are our responsibility in Falls Township. As a light burns out, our public works guys replace it. And what we've been doing is, as one of the older light bulb fixtures burns out, we replace it with an LED one. So it's been sort of, drips and drabs as they go down. We replace them, and the idea was that slowly we'd replace all of them. This, of course, would be replacing the remainder of the roughly 2,200 lights that are left, replacing all of them with LED bulbs, and as Mr. Rocco said, and Mr. Gray also with his numbers is pointing out, the projected cost to be somewhere around $640,000. However, in 4 years, you start making money back through the savings by using bulbs that are more energy efficient and also saving time for our public works guys. The bulbs aren't blowing out as much. They don't have to replace them as frequently. We don't have to buy replacement lamps as frequently. So I think it's, at this, like Mr. Clark said, at this point we need to give some direction. We could take a look at the grant opportunity you're talking about. We could look just to buy the lamps, the bulbs, and then just separately look to hire somebody to put them in. We could look for somebody who would buy the bulbs and put them in together. I guess
put them in ourselves.
We could buy them, put them in ourselves, right? I know Mr. Arneo will probably have a heart attack if he heard us say that, But it's a good thing he's not here. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options here. So I guess that's where we kind of are right now, is this discussion. Where do we go next?
Or do we do a certain amount this year, a certain amount next year, kind of like the road program, break it up into areas?
Sure.
I know that how many intersections have Mr. Arneo done? We've done a significant number of the intersections.
They're all done.
The amount of money is significant that we've saved.
Yes, I don't know
I don't remember the exact number. He told us when he was here, and it was really a lot of money to save, obviously, by looking at these numbers. I know in Bristol Township, they look great. I've driven through and seen some of them. My brother lives in Crabtree, and he loves the ones,
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think the quicker we do it, the faster we have money in our pocket.
Where would we get this $640,000 from?
So we can finance it if we wanted. So it looks like the annual costs are about $325,000 a year we spend on electricity just for the lights. So we're outlaying that regardless. We can take the money we're going to save, which is $152,000 estimated, $152,000. We can put that towards the cost of lights. So there'd be no additional out-of-pocket cost for us if we went that route.
So we could do you think of doing enough lights for basically $152,000 worth of lights every year? Is that what you're thinking of? Or?
No, I was thinking that we'd still do them all.
Do them all, okay.
with no out-of-pocket expense, he's saying.
Yeah.
I would point out that if you were doing a project under the Pennsylvania Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract, that there are tax credits and rebates that are available pursuant to the Federal Energy Policy Act of 2005. Now, in true confession, the Federal Energy Policy Act of 2005 is about that thick. So we only took a very, 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 very brief look at it. So if the board wanted to go in that direction, we'd have to, along with Mr. Sullivan, would figure out exactly how we would become eligible for those tax credits and rebates. That's right. When I put four berries in, four berries means it's expensive. That's right. One berry gets us through the table of contents.
So we're financing it, you're saying, we're paying for it with the money that we're saving.
Right, year over year.
That sounds attractive.
And again, whether it's the RFP for something under the energy savings, or whether it's just a competitive bid, Mr. Sullivan's office can put that together, and we can assist him in that, obviously, as we do with all bids. But it would just be a matter of direction from the board.
Okay.
Is that what Bristol Township did?
I'm not sure what Bristol Township did. But they actually had a grant, I do know that.
They did have a grant.
Yeah. They're in a little different situation than we are.
Yeah. And I know that Mr. Arneo, and I've talked, Mr. Rocco has already, I know, talked to Mr. Arneo about this, and he, of course, being the one who'd have to do maintenance on these bulbs and at some point have to replace them, want to be included just because, as he said, like with any product, the people that design them aren't usually thinking about how you fix these things once they're installed, and sometimes they're extremely difficult to fix, and he's run into that with different kinds of kind of lamps that we've used in the past that fixing them is a nightmare. So he'd like to be involved just so that he knows knows the product and knows which one's going to be more, worker friendly, I guess, maybe.
As an electrician with large hands, when you're trying to put your hands, I have plenty of scars from nicks and cuts trying to fix a light, so I can relate to that.
So which process that we would pursue would give us more control over what we want? Is that
whatever we buy, we're going to have the final say in.
Well, An RFP permits you to look at the various proposals and to choose a proposal based on a variety of factors that you determine are in the best interest of the township. A competitive bid requires you to go with the lowest responsible bidder.
But we could spec a specific kind of light.
You could spec a particular type of light or equal. If you attempt to go with one single type of light, you have to provide an opportunity for someone who can provide what would be an equal light to be able to bid that light also. That would be a determination made by your engineer with respect to or equal. So I don't think these lights would be proprietary for anyone. I think what you would be doing is you'd probably getting some installers who would be doing the bidding, and depending on what type of light you spec, they're all going to be able to get that light. Then it's a matter of pricing and the installation. So
yeah, I'm wondering if it's just easier to buy these all ourselves. That way we know what we're getting.
Right.
And then just go out to try and find somebody
For the labor, yeah.
who can just do the work, do the installation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these specific lights were Philips brand. And again, they're all throughout Bristol Township. If anybody wants to see them, Crabtree, Apple Tree. And then we also could get those lights from the manufacturer, so Mr. Arnao could look at them as well if we chose to go with that particular brand and model.
I like the idea of financing it with no out-of-pocket costs and the savings paying for it.
Right, so you would,
Realistic.
so Pete, you would agree with that, right? That the money we budgeted for,
Over time, it would pay itself. It would take about 4 years, but we would get the money back.
right, but the money we save by consuming less electricity, we budgeted $300 and some thousand for lights.
Yes, it would be less.
Yeah.
After it's installed.
Okay.
if I could make a suggestion, perhaps Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Gray, and my office could put together sort of a little menu of various options for the board to consider, and what would be entailed in from a perspective of bidding or an RFP or whatever grants there may be available. It would include some estimates from Mr. Sullivan regarding going out and purchasing them and then having someone install them, and we could present that to the board, and hopefully by early part of April.
Okay. Board's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't really think we understand our options, or I should speak for myself. I'm
I
not
agree.
clear on the
I don't
options.
understand our options.
And that's what I'm suggesting, that we'd be able to put together and lay out all your various options under all the different programs.
I
So.
think we need to talk to Mr. Arnao and get him involved in this conversation as well.
Yeah, I know Mr. Rocco's talked with him, I've talked with him, and no, I think it's not a choice A or B. It's A1, B, B1, B2, there's so many different options, and some of them are mixing a different one. So it's a lot of different things to look at. But I think this was a good discussion, and it's definitely a step forward, and we can take a look at this. And so I guess that's the direction we'll give our professionals, is to put together that kind of comparison so that the board can analyze that over the next month or so, or sometime in the next month or so. Okay?
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right, next item on our agenda, item 7, consider authorizing advertisement for ordinance amending Chapter 168 Parks, miscellaneous provisions, subsection B, hunting. Mr. Gray, I'll let you get this.
I think it's item 6.
I'm sorry. Apologize.
Nice try.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul, I don't know how I did that. I'll put that right down. I know what I did wrong. Okay. Check something off we hadn't done to yet. Consider authorizing advertising for landscaping services at township facilities. Apologize. Mr. Gray.
Board is asked to consider authorizing advertisement for landscaping services at township facilities. We have 9 facilities throughout the township that we would ask the board to consider for this service. Services included would be edging and mulching, leafing, trimming, maintaining shrub beds and flower beds, collecting and removing litter and debris, controlling weeds, planting flowers and other types of plantings and shrubs and flowers as well. This bid would begin in April and go through the end of October. Last year, the board had CNS, that was the lowest bidder in the amount of $18,000. The board is asked to consider authorizing advertisement for landscaping services.
Okay, comments or questions for Mr. Gray?
None.
This is standard, like we always do, more or less, right?
Yes.
And this is the same as last year. We're specific about what type of mulch and so forth.
Yes, it's
Well, dyed black, I believe it is.
triple ground dark processed hardwood mulch.
Yeah, this definitely has gotten a lot tighter over the past few years. It used to be sort of.
This is one of those
Anything goes,
situations
but-
where we have to go out to bid because of the price. As much as we'd like to give it to one of the many landscaping companies that are right here in the township, we can't. We've been criticized because the company that is the low bidder does it at a pretty ridiculously low price. Mr. Arneo has expressed that they're easy to work with, that there have been problems, but whenever there is a problem, they come out right away, address the problem, and have fixed anything he's ever asked them to fix, and made it right very quickly. I just want to put that out there before
No. Yeah, you're right. And
we question it every year.
I think the last 2 years, CNS has been the low,
2 years, yes.
Yeah, the low bidder. And it is a lot of work, as Mr. Gray said, 9 different areas all over the township. And it's from April through October. It includes spring cleanup, it includes sort of a fall cleanup after October, leaves, et cetera. So it is quite a bit of work. And we do have to bid work that's over a certain amount of money. That's a state law. And so, that's the nuts and bolts of it. But, and I think there's a couple minor updates to this, nothing
Yeah.
serious.
It's going to be about 2 or 3 minor tweaks.
Yeah, so and Mr. Arneo obviously is very involved in this, and we've worked with, I know Mr. Boraski had some concerns that were looked at as well. So, any other comments or questions?
No.
No? Any public comment? Okay. All right, is there a motion then to authorize advertisement for landscaping services?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we'll look at consider authorizing advertisement for ordinance amending Chapter 168, Parks, Section 15, Subsection B, Hunting. Okay, Mr. Gray, are you going to go right to Ms. Gallagher? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Per the board's instructions at the last meeting, this ordinance would be an amendment to Chapter 168, which deals with our parks, Section 15, miscellaneous provisions, subsection B, hunting. What this ordinance does is remove any reference that would prohibit the carrying or possession of firearms in the township parks.
Okay. All right, this is going to be advertised, as was referenced earlier, a court case, Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court, I believe. Wasn't Supreme Court, was it? It was the Pennsylvania Commonwealth. Commonwealth Court. City of Erie had a similar ordinance regarding firearms on public property or on municipally owned property that was overturned, and that essentially puts us in violation with this particular our particular ordinance regarding firearms in the park. So this would essentially just put us in line with what the Commonwealth Court has said.
This is an old ordinance too. This isn't something new. This has been in effect for how long? Does anybody know?
This has been on the books for quite some time. I don't have the exact date, but it's...
That's all.
Okay. All right, comments or questions?
No.
No.
No? Okay. There was a time when you could do common sense gun laws, but that's unfortunately not the time now. Again, motion just to advertise the ordinance. It has to be adopted, which will happen at a future meeting. Motion to advertise.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 8, consider bids for Falls Township Pinewood pole repairs. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the township received a letter dated February 28th from Mr. Sullivan at T&M Associates regarding the Pinewood pool repairs. T&M has reviewed the bids submitted to Falls Township that were publicly opened on February 28th for this project. There were 4 bids received. They are Poolside Plastering, Inc. for $28,340, Kevin M. Wangle, LLC, $28,801. Allstate Technology, Inc., $37,525. And Premier Builders, Inc. for $42,550. Based on the bid evaluation, Poolside Plastering is the lowest responsive bidder for this project. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Engineer's Office to issue a notice of intent to award to Poolside Plastering, Inc. for the total bid cost of $28,340.
Okay, quick one, Mr. Gray, just an idea of what work needs to be done on the pool, the repair work?
There's several items in the baby pool that some of the tiles have fallen off. They would have to be put back on. So I believe that they have until May 12th, I believe it is, to get the work completed.
Does this include the work inside, one of the bathrooms too needed work, correct?
No, that's a separate project.
That's a separate project.
Yes.
So is this just for the baby pool?
Yeah, I believe it's just the baby
Yes.
pool. Yes.
I'm assuming it's a lot of tiles?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's a pretty good amount, I think. Yeah.
100 square feet.
Yeah. 1,300 square feet.
That is big, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's decent size. Decent size. Those babies are tough on this pool.
They are, yeah.
Other comments or questions?
No.
Okay, any public comment? Okay, is there a motion then to authorize the Township Engineer's Office to issue a notice of intent to award to Poolside Plastering Incorporated?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, minutes. We have two sets of minutes for February 4th and February 18th. We'll vote on them together, but let's, any comments or questions regarding the February 4th minutes?
I have none.
No.
Okay, February 18th?
Nope.
No.
Okay. All right, is there a motion then to approve both sets of minutes as presented?
So second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We'll get to executive session. Actually, the Township did...
Excellent minutes, Mrs. Pullen, once again.
Sorry, I apologize. I should know better. We did have an executive session actually before our meeting. Mr. Clark?
Yes, Mr. Harvey, before the meeting, the board held an executive session to discuss two matters of potential litigation involving land development projects in the township.
Okay, thank you. Okay, manager comment?
Yes, just a few items tonight. Trenton Avenue PCTI study, which is being conducted by URS, has reached the final stages of preparation. URS is proposing to have an open house type of meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to present their preliminary recommendations to various stakeholders along the corridor to obtain their input. This is open to various businesses along the corridor, representatives of Falls Township, Morrisville Borough, and Lower Makefield, as well as anyone from the general public who may be interested in the study. This open house meeting will take place on Wednesday, March 19th, 2014 at the Eleanor Roosevelt Elementary School cafeteria from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. All are welcome to come to the presentation, review the improvement recommendations, and provide feedback to URS. This can be placed on, this will be advertised on the Township's webpage, Facebook, in the coming days, as well as the cable channel.
Okay.
Also, the Township recently received a request for Historic Fallsington Day to be held on October 11th, 2014. In the 2014 budget, the Township included a $6,000 amount for this event. They have provided a budget for $5,775. The board is asked to consider a $5,775 donation to Historic Fallsington. The board is asked to consider this donation at this time.
Okay, comments or questions regarding donation for Historic Fallsington? Okay, is there a motion then to approve the donation, $5,775?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The Township had a state of emergency beginning at 6 p.m. this past Sunday, March 2nd, through 5 p.m. yesterday, Monday, March 3rd, due to the recent storm. Per the township ordinance, the manager may declare a local emergency subject to ratification by the Board of Supervisors at their next regularly scheduled meeting. This time, the board is asked to approve this action imposed by the township manager.
Okay, obviously we caught a break. The storm moved a little further south than we thought it would, but appreciate the work of the Rich DiPolito, our fire marshal, who did a lot of work preparing for an emergency that didn't actually become that much of an emergency. Police officers who were out knocking on doors, getting people to move their vehicles, just in case the snow had gotten worse than it actually did. Again, thanks to all those folks and to all the folks who made the life a little easier by getting their cars off the road, so we didn't have to knock on a whole lot of doors or tow a lot of cars. So
it seemed like nothing this snow compared to what we've had this winter, but getting the cars off the street is still very important.
Sure.
They did have to tow 4 cars this last snow. But yeah, you have to move your cars when it snows. A lot of people complain, you never did this before, why now? We've been talking about it for a long, long time.
Right.
And at some point you just have to start doing it.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is more people were thanking us than were complaining about it.
Right.
It was a small handful.
Right. So, any other comments or questions?
No.
No? Okay.
Hopefully this is the last one for this year, or ever, actually. Last snow emergency.
Motion to ratify the state of emergency from March 2nd to March 3rd.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Finally, for the Pinewood Pool for the upcoming season, the township is looking to hire assistant managers and lifeguards. If anyone is interested, please come to the township, fill out a location at the township building, and we will forward along to the Park and Rec Department.
Fill out an application.
Application.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said location.
Application.
Somebody's messing with this teleprompter.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Don't read anything you put on there.
Otto the Clown. I think Otto the Clown is taking the resumes. Okay.
Miss Gallagher got my joke.
All right. So we. Okay. So yeah, we're looking for employees for the pool. Looking forward to a nice hot summer. And that's that's what I'm hoping for. But okay. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Appreciate that. All right. Board comment. Want to volunteer?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, 2 items. We received a letter on January 27th from Jason Lawson, who has some interest in being on the zoning hearing board. We currently have 1 alternate position open. I've spoke to Jason as well. He's actually the Public Works Director in Bristol Township, so I believe he's well qualified.
Okay. And we do need, this is a resolution, it's
14-7.
14-7.
14-7. Okay. All right. Comments or questions? You made the motion, I'll second the motion. Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I also received an email from Bill Byer with interest for the TOFA board. Last meeting, we advertised that we had an opening on TOFA. He was the only person that had reached out to us. I spoke to Bill. I forwarded the information on to the board members, and think he's probably well qualified for it.
Most of us know Bill, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know.
Once or twice.
Okay. All right.
I'll make the motion to appoint Bill Byer.
Okay, to the vacant seat.
Does that have to be a resolution?
Yeah, I think it does. Oh, does it?
No, TOFA does not. TOFA is just a. Yep.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
All right.
I'll make the motion then.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Like I said, hopefully the snow is done for this year. It's supposed to get up in the 50s this weekend. Hopefully it melts. It's hard to believe that in less than 90 days, or just a little over 90 days, it'll be June 7th when we have the Family Festival and the Queue for the Troops for the 4th year again this year. So everybody can mark their calendars and start thinking summer. Skip right over spring. Let's just go right to June.
Let's do it.
Like Mr. Kenny said, I'll repeat, is this Sunday is Charter Day at Pennsbury Manor, where the actual charter of Pennsylvania will be on display from 1 till 4 p.m., which is actually pretty exciting, right here in Falls Township. What else? This traffic advisory committee is something that I'm really excited that is finally going to get up and moving. We advertise, hopefully, the first meeting in April, it'll be official. They can start meeting and start working on calming traffic everywhere in Falls. And I think that's about all I have tonight. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I understand it's the 15th year the townships received the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report Award. I think that's awesome. It's great that 15 years in a row, and everybody does a great job there. And then something very exciting to tell you about. A week from Saturday, March 15th, is the 26th Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. This occurs on New Falls Road. It steps off at 10 o'clock in the morning. We march from St. Joe's up to the tech school, where there's a reviewing stand. So it spans both Falls Township and Bristol Township. One of the highlights this year is the Pennsbury Marching Band is joining us, which is absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
We have many bands. It's an effort that really requires 100 volunteers throughout the year, hundreds, actually thousands of marchers on that day, and many thousands of spectators. We've had dance groups who march in the Philadelphia Parade each year, and they'll tell us that we actually have more spectators attend our parade than the Philadelphia St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is quite a thing to say. So it actually begins at 8 o'clock that morning with a mass at St. Joe's. It's in honor of St. Patrick. Our Grand Marshal this year is State Senator Chuck McElhenney. He'll be in attendance, as will Lieutenant Governor Cawley, who's been a past Grand Marshal, and a number of other luminaries. The parade, of course, takes place. It ends about 12:30 on New Falls Road. After that, we have what's called a hoolie, which is Gaelic for Irish dance at the Fraternal Order of Eagles, and that runs generally from about 12 to 5 o'clock. So if whether good or bad, it can't be as bad as it was last year with the snow. So we encourage everyone to come out and enjoy it and support it. Thank you very much.
And you don't have to be Irish, right?
You do not have to be Irish at all.
Okay.
All
right, thank you very much. I wanted to talk about a couple things. First, a couple of other events to announce. One of these goes right in line, actually, with the Saturday the 15th. You can go to the parade, or march in the parade. You can go to the Holy afterwards, and then at 7 o'clock that night, at Levittown Fire Company No. 1, Colonial Hall, is the Fabulous Grease Band concert from 7 to 11:30. It is price is $35 a person, includes buffet beer and soda. No one under 21 is admitted. And the Grease Band, actually a band I've actually gone to see with my wife a couple times. It's really, they do a lot of 50s, 60s, 70s. They've kind of getting into the 80s, 90s stuff now, but they're very, very entertaining. It's a very, very good time. And again, that's at Levittown Fire Company on Falls Tullytown Road, Colonial Hall. I'm assuming this information, we'll be able to put this up on the website. And so there's a couple numbers here to call for that on the 15th of March. And then on April 5th, another event from Levittown Fire Company. Saturday, April 5th, is a designer bag bingo. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. Bingo starts at 7. Pre-purchase is $25 a ticket. It's $30 at the door, if the tickets are still available. There's 15 regular games of bingo, 4 special games, and 1 jackpot. There's also a 50-50 drawing. And refreshments and food are available to purchase. And you're talking about purses, designer bags from Michael Kors, Vera Bradley, and Coach. So that's, you can spend maybe $25 a ticket. If you get lucky, you get a designer bag that would cost you about $300 or $400. And if you don't necessarily tell your wife about it, you can give it to her for Mother's Day, and she thinks she thinks she spent the whole top ticket on that bag. So not that I'll do that, but it's a thought. So information about both of these will be on our website, or on the cable channel. Sorry. A few other things just to kind of talk about. I wanted to give an update from the EAC meeting. The Environmental Advisory Council met a few weeks ago. Just a couple things. April 26th, let's check this real fast. April 26th is Earth Day. And this year's Earth Day, what the EAC is doing is a little different than years past. Typically, they focused a lot on the community park. And what our EAC is doing this year is working together with EACs from Lower Makefield and from Middletown. And they are doing a very large Earth Day event at Core Creek Park. It's being coordinated by the Middletown Environmental Advisory Council. And there's going to be a lot of things there at the park, a lot of companies that do all kinds of green, home improvements and other things like that. Our EAC will be there. I believe they'll be raffling off or sort of doing a giveaway kind of contest for one of our rain barrels or a composting thing, giving out all kinds of information. So it's trying to really get a lot of people together for that event. Something else in the EAC that was interesting, the community garden, which was started a few years ago, thanks largely to the work of Lieutenant Ward, who's here in the back, hiding in the back of the audience. It has been for a while actually completely sold out. There's actually a waiting list for people that want plots in our community garden. And they actually expanded this year. They made it a little bit bigger, and they still sold out. To the point where they actually had to start denying people. Some people wanted to do 2 plots instead of just 1, and they had to sort of not allow them to do that. So it's very, very popular, and a lot of work goes into that. From our EAC, they do a lot. Our public works guys do a lot too to help keep it up, and some other volunteer organizations help to keep it up. So some good news coming out of the things that they're doing. And I also wanted to give a couple updates about 2 issues that are sort of out there and always sort of hanging out there, and occasionally we forget about them, and to remind people about them. We've had some complaints over the years about flooding behind Chatham Road in Frails Hills. And we've been dealing with this for several years. I forget when it first came up, but it seems like every year it's a problem, especially in the springtime. But the flooding, is not getting any better, and it's turning into a real problem for residents on Chatham Road. And unfortunately, there isn't anything we can do about it because the property that's flooding is county property. We have met several times. Mr. Sullivan has met several times with representatives from the county, and nothing really seems to get done. Late last year, the Board of Supervisors sent a letter to the county commissioners, essentially letting them know, putting them on notice that if they had been a private company, a private landowner, they would have been cited several times for failure to maintain their property. Unfortunately, because they are a county, county government land, there's nothing we can do in terms of enforcement or fines or notices of violation. But we also did let them know that any damages that occur to people's property, loss of property value, if it turns into a West Nile breeding ground for mosquitoes and someone gets sick from that, we made it very clear that we have no responsibilities, that we have put the county on notice, that we will not be in any way responsible for any damages to persons or property from their negligence to maintain that property. That letter got some attention. And we did have a meeting with Commissioner Marseglia, and to talk about the issue. The county did actually take, for them, a giant step, although it's a really small step, which is to ask an engineering firm to take a look at ways to fix the problem. And they've been in contact with Mr. Sullivan briefly. That's about as far as we've gotten, unfortunately. Again, it's we wish there was more we could do, and to the residents in that area, we apologize. There really isn't a lot we can do. We're doing what we can, but it really is a county issue, and we can't force their hand at it. So all we can keep doing is just sort of nagging them to do something, and hopefully something gets done. The other area of concern, kind of going back to flooding, is the area around North Park and Elderberry, where FEMA has declared some of those homes in a flood zone and forces them to pay flood insurance. Now, these are areas that haven't flooded, don't flood. Residents who are original Levittown residents who've been there and said it's never flooded, it's never an issue, and yet they still have to file for flood insurance. This is also an issue that's been around for several years. We had a pretty large meeting here back several years ago. Congressman Murphy set that up with people from the Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Emergency Management and FEMA, and I think even the Army Corps was here to talk about ways to rectify this. We have had some progress with them as well. We've had them agree to sort of take some of those properties out of the flood zone, which again, is a small step, but it's the biggest step we've seen in several years of fighting this battle. We're going to continue to fight the battle. The maps that they produce, we know, are not exactly accurate. We're asking them to re-examine them, to change them. Usually we get told that they don't have the money to do that. What we tell residents, we have told them before, and we know that some of them have actually done this, if your property's considered in the flood zone, and you have the ability to have the property surveyed, if you're pretty sure your property's not in the flood zone, you can have it surveyed. The survey costs a couple $100, but if it gets you out of the flood zone, you're going to save a couple $1,000s in the first year. We know we had some residents who actually pooled their resources. Several families go together, hire a surveyor to survey all their properties. It's cheaper, and hopefully they get out of the floodplain. So again, an issue that we are aware of and that we're working on. We've had meetings just over the summertime. Mr. Gray was out there walking the properties with a representative from FEMA to try and get him to see. Mr. Sullivan, I believe, was out there as well, to try and get them to see that this is something that has to change. So again, we're doing what we can. We're limited in our power, especially when it comes to state and federal law. But we are aware of the situation, and we're doing some things that we hope make a difference, and that's all we can do. And with that, I wish everybody happy St. Patty's Day, and come on out to the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Hopefully the weather's going to be great. Okay, a few years ago, I remember getting sunburned walking just in a shirt and tie at the St. Patty's Day Parade. So that's what it's going to be like again this year. I'm very confident of that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.